conversation is proudly brought to you by the National Center for Wellness.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rob Coombs, host of the Childbirth Summit. On behalf of the National Center for Wellness, I'd like to welcome you to a critical conversation that most people don't know they absolutely need to have. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Valerie Lynn. She is a post-pregnancy wellness specialist. She has spent 20 years abroad. She's been a working business consultant in Europe and Asia. She was serving as the executive director of the American Malaysian Chamber of Commerce. And while in Malaysia, she was studying traditional labor and the afterbirth practices. She's conducted research on postnatal practice through the Ministry of Health in Malaysia government and is best known as the author of the book, The Mommy Plan. So I'd like to welcome Valerie to the conversation. Welcome.
Hi, Rob.
How
nice
are
to
you?
be here.
Excellent.
Good,
Excellent. In part of the conversation today, I want to be able to discuss with you a little bit about postnatal care, about your expertise in understanding a lot of the components, especially through nutrition and other factors that contribute to that. But in order to begin that conversation, can you tell us a little bit about how you developed a passion for what you do and how you got to where you are?
Okay. Well, my interest stemmed from my own experience with having postpartum anxiety for about 12 to 15 months after I gave birth to my son in 2007. We had come back to the U.S. And I wound up having my son in America in May 2007, then returned to Malaysia in August 2007. And from then I was recruited by the chamber and worked for the chamber. I started having a lot of anxiety, and then I had, starting having, the crazy thoughts about your baby, and I didn't know what to do at that point because I was in a very high profile position, and it just wasn't talked about, and so I couldn't find any groups or peer groups or anyone to talk about because postpartum depression is so low in Malaysia at just 3% that in 10 years I never met anyone who suffered from it.
So you said in Malaysia, 3% of the women suffer postpartum depression.
Yes.
Can you give this statistic in America right now?
Oh my God, the unofficial or official?
Just ish.
Ish. I would say, oh my goodness, probably 25 to 35%.
Wow.
Unofficially. Officially, it's always 15. 15 to 18, that will always be the official. And then the statistic that they give doesn't include the ongoing cases. So they're just the new cases. But since postpartum really, in many cases, lasts more than 12 months, you're talking about another year.
Wow.
So it's a massive epidemic here.
Yes.
And it's just not because it's not understood. For me, what's happening is just this is the transition of a woman's body into a non-pregnancy is just not understood, and it's unfortunate because we do natural fertility, pregnancy, labor, and delivery. We do that really well. We knock that out of the ballpark. It's fantastic here, but we drop the ball when it comes to recovery, and it's really from not understanding the whole process.
I think I agree with you 100%, and I think just from our culture, you've been abroad, you've talked to other people in other countries, and you get to a point where in America you have a baby and it's immediately let's get back to work. It's 6 weeks. I mean, the whole policy from the bureaucracy down through corporate America, even teachers, it's right back to work, not putting any value on the family and being at home and connecting with the child. So I look forward to this conversation. Can you go a little bit further? So you notice that in Malaysia it is 3%.
Yes, with any kind of credible study, with a comparative country study, which is from the World Health Organization or the International Journal of Nursing, there are only a few. Malaysia always comes out as the lowest or among the lowest.
Wow.
And it's roughly 3% amongst because what's great about Malaysia is they have one of the most richest postnatal heritages in the world because their culture is made up of the indigenous Malays, 65%, the Chinese, about 26%, and then the Indian, about 7% or so. And all three of the cultures have amazing structured recovery programs. And so that's what they're made of. So the women are just spoiled for choice out there. But the most comprehensive, in my opinion, and I think the easiest that a Western mother would be able to follow and incorporate the change in her diet, temporary change in her diet, is the Malay. The Chinese, the baby moon they're very animal organ dense. They eat a lot of animal organs.
Okay.
And so I don't think that would be appealing. Indian is just really complicated. Even the Vita and the Vata, even though it's for me it was too complicated to understand the whole fire, water. It's very good, and some of the recipes are great. And I've had an Ayurvedic doula, Yashka Oates, write something for my book, so I have great respect for it. But when I talk about, I wrote for the mainstream mom,
right?
Not just for the alternative and the holistic. I was trying to have the mainstream mom, because that's where the statistics are the greatest,
right.
For those moms. So
and I agree, because I think any mom outside of mainstream is going to be familiar or look into a lot of those conversations. Parna had done an interview about the Ayurvedic diet and whatnot. So the fact that you can hit the mainstream arena, I think, is a great approach, because you'll have the greatest exposure to the moms, in a niche that desperately needs information.
Yes, that's what I was hoping, and I do. Like I said, but I do love the Ayurvedic, and I'm a big fan of Indian food. So, but for me, it was just a little complicated. So, but in Malaysia, even though the Chinese and the Indian will follow their dietary program, they will always get the Malay services, the body wrapping, the massages. They will always go to follow that as well, because it's so effective as the body is going through a hyperactive, release of the water and the fat during a fantastic healing window of opportunity that we miss, because we started after 6 weeks.
Right. Absolutely.
So we miss that. And since my background is developmental economics, so I like statistics, so I've done some of my own statistics that are in the book on the transition on how the body releases fat at 7 times the rate it normally would. And that's just because the body is just naturally shedding it. It's a natural process. That's why natural remedies and massage and things that are just natural to encourage this process and harness it to make the body even more effective and efficient, losing what it needs to lose, is actually an easy process. And what it does, now my interpretation of this is, as the body is shedding it and you're helping release through different like heaty oils that just bring a little heat and circulation into the body, because the digestive, circulation, and metabolism stall after childbirth. That's a known fact. So you're gently starting it up again. And so as that happens, you're helping the shedding. That's taking some of the physical strain off the body, and it's allowing for a better hormonal or a hormonal recovery or chemical rebalancing in the brain. And so it's all a bit of a balancing act after childbirth.
So a lot of it they're doing with wraps, they're doing massage. Is it a lot of using oils and natural compounds true to their environment that they're using? Is it the connectivity of their culture and their family? What are some of the factors that you think make the biggest difference on why they've got such a successfully low postpartum rate versus America?
Well, I think for one thing, we've lost. We had this knowledge here, and we've lost it. We didn't write it down, because ironically, I had a grandma call me. She loved the products and wanted to buy some for her daughter, and we were talking, and I think she must have been about 70, because her son was 50. And she said when she gave birth in LA, she had one of the nurses who wrapped her abdominal, which I haven't heard. And it was interesting because they do this in Asia. They put a light bulb, some kind of a heat light bulb in the base under the bed where the feet are to, I mean, to help actually, just to help dry the body, dry the vaginal area. It wasn't, something that would burn the woman.
Right.
But she said it was, and that was put there, and that is done in other countries. And it all goes back to the body just being, full of fluid,
Right.
And so this is the releasing and the drying that happens. But I think that we haven't preserved this history here that we definitely have had. We don't look in we don't pay attention to what was in our own backyard, like the Native American Indians and the Amish to this day, who still have some practices that's difficult to get in and to study, which I haven't been able to do yet. And so I think that, and again, it is our culture of going right back to work, not having a nuclear family, being spread out. People having babies later in life, and grandparents being much older, and just it's hard for them to help out with a brand new baby on a continual basis as well. We have that type of aging, part of the population.
It's amazing as you describe it, all the changes we've made, and how far we've come or gone from where we should have been, and the knowledge that we had that was always passed down, to where we are, and what we will need to do to try and regain some of that knowledge, how impossible that is, and how hard that will be. It's a daunting task. So,
You talk to older people, and I talk to older doulas and nurses and in hospitals, and the older women, they say, the older women in their 60s will say, my grandma, we did this and we did that, and it's the same information, it's the same heritage, it's the same basics, but we just lost it. We didn't write it down, and that's why in Malaysia, where the Ministry of Health Traditional Complementary Medicine Department has incorporated 6 free postnatal treatments into their maternal health care policy for every mother that gives birth in a government hospital.
Wow.
So they get 6 free 2-hour body treatments. But what's very interesting, and because I did my research, I had to just take their traditions and go backwards because they couldn't explain them to me, is all these treatments, these 6 treatments must happen within the first 6 weeks. And the first 2 must happen within the first 10 days. So they're capitalizing on that transition process.
Sure. And the hormones in the body, and as they change, like you said, you capitalize on that transition and use the momentum of the hormones to create change. That's amazing. What kinds of foods would you say are present? Part of the book that you've written, and things I find so fascinating that you've touched on in the Mommy Plan, is talking about certain foods that positively and certain foods that negatively impact the healing capacity of the body. Is there something in particular that you would discuss or bring up that is either important in what you found, or in a culture like Malaysia, things that they absolutely add that we, for one reason or another, don't incorporate into the diet?
Well, we really don't have anything. We don't have an after-birth diet, even if it's temporary. We go and we eat the same things that we would, but we have to understand, what women don't understand is the condition of the body after childbirth. And I think that's something that should be put into all kind of prenatal classes, is the condition of their body. Because, like I said, the metabolism, digestive, and circulatory systems stall. And so if you're going to try and eat pasta or a hamburger or something, like a 7-ounce kind of meat, your body is going to not be able to digest that as effectively. So in essence, what you're doing is the energy that's taking to create breast milk and to release the fluid and the fat and to rebalance the hormones in the brain has now stopped. It's interrupted. It's now going to the digestive system to digest that burger, to digest that pizza, that oily food. And so, okay, when that's done, all right, then it's going to go back, and then the energy is going to continue with the breast milk and the hormone rebalancing and the shedding. So we have a start-stop process of healing, and that's what happens to our moms. So really, you need to have foods that have been that are soft, have been cooked in a what's it called, a slow cooker.
Right.
And and meat that's maybe like just maybe 4 or 5 ounces at a time. That's easy on your digestive system. Wholesome foods, not processed, not like delivery, takeaway. Although we have organic services, and that's fine. Those kind of food, but it gets expensive, and you've just had a baby, and you've had all these expenses with that. But your body needs more wholesome foods that are easily digestible, especially soups, and especially bone broth soups, because those are the ones that have the marrow and the vitamins and minerals that bring back into the body. So one thing I really advocate for is where women are, okay, we're breastfeeding, we have to have water, water, water. Yes, you need water. You need liquid. So not just water, because water is a diuretic. It doesn't bring any minerals. It brings nothing in. But you need it. Of course you
It's a
need
solvent, right?
water. So, but what you need is, okay, I do a third. You need a third of water. You need a third of like a bone broth, so any kind of bone broth, chicken broth, beef broth that you can even drink as like a tea, drink as a snack, and you need your postnatal herbal tea that will help again to help your body. So you don't just need liquids. You just water, excuse me. You need liquids.
Right. You need a balance of things that are going to help you get the nutrients necessary.
Yes, and so as your metabolism, as your body, as your digestive system, gets going. So you need to really look at that. Look at your diet, and it's temporary. Just it's not. You're not going to do it forever. And so, I know moms say we've just been through this. We didn't have caffeine. We didn't have that and this, but it's just a little bit more time. And I think that is what the moms over in Malaysia they're really self-disciplined,
Right.
in that respect, because I've interviewed many of moms modern Malaysian moms that had more than one child, that they followed the practices, then they decided not to, or they didn't, and then they did, and they said their recovery was night and day.
Different.
Their energy, when they followed the traditions, their energy they had much more energy, recovery, their body shed, and they fit back into their pre-pregnancy clothes in 2 to 3 months easily, and they look fantastic. Even in New York here, with the Malaysian government, I've spoken to some of the ladies here about their traditions, because they've had kids here, and they'll bring people over, and they'll bring product over to help them recover, because it's just they know it's just so important.
That's fantastic. Just so you know, over your shoulder, you have a guest in the back of the room here.
Jordan, go in the room. Thanks, sweetie. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's where it all started.
It's all part of it, and that's why we're here. That's great. To me, it makes it more authentic. You've got some background to speak from. I think it's fantastic. So you mentioned that even they'll ship things over. What kinds of products? Can you list one or two specific? You mentioned some foods. Can you list oils and things that they traditionally will use, or certain things that they believe make the biggest impact that allow them to get back to pre-baby status in 3 months? I mean, when I talk to moms and we're discussing the plan of getting back to where they were, I use a 9-month on, 9-month off conversation. So 3 months is rapidly faster. What are some of the things that they attribute most to from either their environment or things that they would bring in to having the biggest impact?
Okay. What complements the diet, and of course a lot of downtime that's not even questioned by anyone, husband, family. It's in a lot of downtime that they realize, okay, my wife just had a baby, and in Asia, it is a much more difficult life and lifestyle. Every family member must contribute and be a productive contributing member to the family. So they're not going to allow someone free time to just lounge about without realizing it's for a purpose. It's so that the mom can recover and then get back to being a contributing member of the family, because they need everyone. Everyone's important. So what complements the diet and the downtime are products. For example, they will always have a herbal oil. Now, a herbal oil that has heaty properties, Heaty.
Okay.
Heaty is something like a ginger involved in it, a ginger that's infused, pepper, galangal, which is like galangal's a Thai ginger, turmeric, things that when infused into the skin help the body. The body absorbs, and the circulatory system just starts again. It's like the engine that could again, the steam engine. So the body knows to take these herbs into its circulatory system, and then it just helps the body become heaty. Now, one thing about pregnancy, and this whole any traditional process, Chinese, Ayurvedic, Malay, or whatever country, Latino, is all based on the humoral theory of medicine. Humoral.
Yep.
Humoral theory of medicine, which means when you're pregnant, you're in a hot state. Your body rises 0.5 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit above your basal body temperature, 98.5. When you give birth, you lose the body heat of the baby, blood, 50% of the fluids. You're exhausted from labor, and so your body temperature decreases the same amount, 0.5 to 1.5 degrees below your basal body temperature. So the 6 to 8 weeks is committed to the recovery, but it's also committed to the consistent rise of the body temperature.
Okay.
Back to what it was. So that's why women will have flu-y symptoms and feel cold, and so they understand that process. They're in a cold state. Okay, so that's another major reason why they wear the abdominal wrap, because to keep your core warm. Even you wear a vest outside or something. I prefer a vest because it keeps your core warm. So the wrap stabilizes the weakened core. Of course, it holds in, pushes in the hips because it's a long one. It goes from the hips to under the breasts. So it pushes in the hips. If you open 10 centimeters, you got to close 10 centimeters.
Right.
It just gently helps the hips and closes the cervix, and it stabilizes the core, and it just holds everything back together. And so it allows it not to be floppy, but allows the healing process to happen, stabilizing it. So they use a wrap, abdominal wrap. They use an infused heaty oil. And most times they'll use also a firming paste, a herbal firming paste on their stomach that is put on after a massage, after a wonderful heated hot rock or an infused herbal ball massage into the tummy, because that breaks up the blood clots in the lochia. It makes the lochia just flow better and faster and quicker. So the healing process just takes place quicker because you're helping the body. You're not just relying on the body. It's like, so for us, and I see it on TV all the time, okay, after our 6-week check, we can't do anything for 6 weeks. After we go to the 6-week check with the doctor, then we can start. But it's like breaking your leg or your arm and then going to the doctor after 6 weeks. How do you think the healing process is going to take? What's going to happen? And then afterwards. So you're really missing that. But even if mom starts 3 to 4 weeks after, things are still happening in the body that you can harness. Like
Sure.
you said, momentum. That will happen. So
As you describe it, it's amazing because when you talk about what they're doing and the benefits, one of the conversations that we're having with one of the other speakers, Barb Morrison, is talking about a lot of the hormones in the body. And when you warm the core, that's a parasympathetic response. And parasympathetic is going to be based on healing. It's going to be based on relaxation and rejuvenation, where blood flow to the extremities is going to be sympathetic. And that's going to be fight or flight. That's going to be panic. So a lot of the things that they're doing to warm the core generate a calming, ease state of the body, which allow the body to dictate more energy towards healing. So I'm always fascinated by, and I love the simple logic that when you support what the body physiology is trying to do, you're always going to get better results. And we from the outside in try and force the physiology instead of from the inside out support the physiology. So again, the things you're talking about make perfect sense to me as you say them. It's just strikingly ironic that we don't do a lot of these things in our culture, and we think of ourselves as so advanced and scientific.
We complicate things that don't have to be complicated. And what they also do is that there's a program that they have their postpartum plan in place by the end of the second trimester, and they know what they're going to do. And so I've replicated that program. I've created a 30-day program with 11 products, with the wrap, with the healing, the oils, and with soaps and everything, so you don't have chemicals, because chemicals interfere with the hormonal healing process. And so I've tried to simplify this with a chart that you follow, videos, and everything. But moms are still not kind of getting it, still not understanding. It's like when you have the car and you wait till it breaks before you take it to the shop. And so, again, it's a bit of the challenge for me is the mentality. It's okay, what bugaboo stroller do I get versus okay, about your health, because
what's really important, right?
yeah, because pregnancy is a temporary state,
Right.
and it's and like I said, postpartum is so much longer, and I was really surprised when I went through my postpartum anxiety, and I didn't meet anyone who for 10 years until Postpartum Support International invited me to be their international country coordinator for Malaysia. Did I start meeting women, and then these women, moms didn't have any support with doctors. They did because the doctor wasn't enough people for it. So all they could do was go to a gynecologist that was known for giving hormone tests, and that was it. And they were struggling. So there's a lot of grassroots support there. But one very interesting thing that I had happened in Malaysia when I was there this past summer for 2 months, and I was doing research and training and things, was I linked up and was invited to join with a local NGO called Yasnita, which is called the Voice of Women. It's a government, for a government that supports women in all different aspects. And so we signed an MOU to be able to, so I have another platform to speak about the practices that are Malaysian practices that are starting to go global.
So outsourcing their information.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
so
amazing. America outsources so much of what we do, and it's never asked, is it the best plan to be outsourcing? So I think that's fantastic that they're outsourcing their ideas. Now, give the acronyms. Can you break the acronyms down?
Yasnita?
Okay. But
Yeah.
you said the acronym was MAO?
Oh, I'm sorry, MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding.
MOU, got it. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Yasnita means Voice of Women, Yasanita. It's a Malay word, a Bahasa Melayu word. And so I'm really quite excited about it. We're still filling out everything from training and bringing more Malaysian women over here to do training and vice versa. I've had a lot of people interested in the wrapping because the Malay Bengkung wrapping is becoming quite popular here, and I've had some hospitals and things ask me to do training for that and to see where their doulas can further support the moms.
Yeah.
And even simple things like telling people you're in a cold state, don't drink cold water.
Right.
Because again, it just goes back to, all right, it's good for losing weight because your digestive system uses energy to heat it up. But what you're doing again, just like the oily food or the big piece of meat, your body, you're taking the energy away from the rebound, hormonal rebalancing, the breast milk, losing the fat and fluid to heat up that water so your body can absorb it, and so it's the start-stop process.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why we take longer. That's why you talk about 9 months.
Exactly.
It's because it start-stop.
Well, when the goal is to lose weight, not be healthy, to not recover to before pregnancy, but simply to shed pounds, and when it's water weight, for some reason people think that's fantastic, and they count that, even though it hasn't changed a thing about the health of their body, and the body's going to naturally put on weight to help throw the toxins. So, no, it's nice that all the things you talk about, like I said, make total sense. And I get excited because I know so many conversations I've had with moms that they're looking for these things. They're looking for these resources, these tools. So to have them be more available, to have hospitals looking for them, I think one of the best contributions midwifery and doulas and the entire spectrum of healthcare from that niche in specific is evidence-based practice. Is that they've gone to evidence-based because it truly does show. It's better than double-blind. You can't do a double-blind study on a person because once you do something, you can't not do it. So to have an evidence-based study makes the most logical sense, shows the best results, and to use cultures from around the world that are getting results 2, 3, 10 times better than what we have. To me, it's a no-brainer. So I think that's great that they're bringing them in, and I applaud it and I look for a lot more of that information. But that's great as a resource that you can connect that information for moms, for families, and really start a process of change. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it is, and it's needed. Like I say, we still have the same old statistic of 1 million moms per year. It's annually. It's new moms. It's not the existing, like I mentioned in the beginning. So we really don't. I think that the figure is much higher,
Right,
than we actually have. And I'm trying to get like insurance companies interested because I've done my own statistics, and my own very simple statistic is that a figure is actually a $7.5 billion drain on the U.S. economy from postpartum depression. When you get into, how many moms per year, just times a statistic that I found with going to psychiatrists, pharmaceuticals, just times it added together, and the productivity at work and what is lost.
that's what I was going to say.
It's about $7.5 billion, and you won't find that anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I created it. But so I'm trying to get corporate. And actually, I did speak at Johnson & Johnson, and I
saw
spoke,
that on the website. Yeah.
to their pregnant moms. It was really great.
I think any company needs to be aware, and it ought to turn their head. You hear a number that high, you hear a number in the billions, billion, and people start trying to do math in their head. But you start getting into opportunity costs. You get into time loss. You get into the productivity measurements, and with so many women in the workforce and how much they contribute, it's for months to years of the effect. I'm not surprised by that number at all.
For the life of me, though, I don't know why the government hasn't, with the 1 million, moms per, why they haven't looked at it closer, why corporates haven't looked at it, why insurance companies haven't looked at this, and for the life of me, I can't figure that out, because, my son is 7, so this is 7 years of my research. I come back, it's still the same. Nothing has changed with respect to recovery.
I think it's a conversation that people don't understand it because everyone has a different experience. They have a hard time quantifying why certain women have the, more of an effect and others do not. And I think that once you have a spectrum of response, it gets into that hard to study area, hard to prove, so let's just ignore it and maybe it'll go away. And it's one of the most dangerous assumptions you can make, but it's classic American medical bureaucracy. So, hopefully it's something we can change. You had mentioned that it's information that every mom needs to hear. We talked about it being a family cultural and a family issue and a family solution. Talk a little bit about dads. What can dads be aware of? What can dads do? And I know you have something about a daddy plan.
Yes. Well, dads are awesome.
Thank you.
Dads are awesome, and they can play such an important role. If they're the primary caregiver after the mom has a baby, they're there, but they need a little direction. They need a little scope on what to do. And so I think they're given responsibility of really how they can help the mom, again, from knowing foods to cook or buy, what she needs, more of a plan. Like the daddy plan is the last chapter in my book, and that's where I specifically talk to the dads. And I've had some dads help me with the chapter to make sure it was written, not from a quite female angle,
Right.
Something more masculine that a dad can understand,
Patrick,
but where they can fit in.
Patrick Hauser was a speaker that we've had, and he talks a lot about dad's contributing side. But I definitely want your spin and your contribution on that. But like you mentioned before, certain foods, the American foods, delay healing, promote, a lot of the problems that we have from, you talk about pizza and burgers and things like that, and those are those are absolutely guy comfort foods and guy go-to, hey, I can get dinner tonight. So what are some of the solutions you come up with?
Well, I mean, for the dads, it was more about trying to create an atmosphere where the mom can heal herself, or she can breastfeed, and he doesn't feel like he's not involved. If you just if dads understand the logic and the practicality
Right.
that's explained behind why the mom needs rest, why she needs certain food, what he could bring her,
Right.
and you're trying to change the caregiving roles a bit, and he knows his place. I think that will help a lot with the mental change. Writing out recipes and cooking and doing the cleaning and other things. Yeah, he can do that, and anyone else can. But if he understands more, the condition of the body, how if this downtime is going to help the mom heal faster, so she can be up and contributing. I think they go into it with a better mindset.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, in this day and age, it's really a team. You really do need that village, and there's not really many villages. I've come back to find out that there's hardly any villages left. For raising that child, and so you're really a team. And if you stress one another out, it's not good all around.
Absolutely.
Atmosphere. But no, dads are great, and they do have an important role to play. They just need to understand that role better. Maybe they're looking to their own role models for that. But sometimes it's just not that. It's not that era.
Right.
Where we looked at our parents and grandparents.
I think
It's a lot more pressure.
A lot more pressure, a lot more time, and there's a lot to be done. But like you said, I think if you just indicate things that would be the biggest help, and if you have the conversation to protect and respect time, that you help make sure that dad is respecting the need that mom needs to rest, stay warm. That's something every dad absolutely can provide for, would be happy to provide for, and to know if you do this and you create the time to relax and literally do nothing, that mom will be back to being mom like she always is and was, and be back at full speed in a much faster time period. I think every guy would embrace that and understand that and respect that. I mean, after a sporting event, you're sore, you need time to recover. It's something intuitively guys just get that.
That's a good point.
I don't think it's a hard sell. It just needs to be discussed. So the fact that you bring light to it, I think is critical.
Yeah, and actually Patrick wrote something in my book too, in the Daddy Plan. So.
I saw the contribution, so I figured I'd give him a plug.
Yeah, no, he's great. He is.
He's a good guy. Any last thoughts? Anything that you talk about at the end of each of the speakers' interviews? There's usually a link to a free gift, and I know on your website there's the 5 essential steps to post-pregnancy wellness for modern moms. So I know that link is there, and it'll print on the bottom of the interview here, so anybody can go to the link and follow it to your website, especially to find more information, and certainly to find your book. Is there any other parting thoughts that you would like to share?
I think moms they need to think about their recovery a bit more. They think pregnancy is a temporary state, and if you do take care of yourself, you can take care of your child much better. And we really do immediately take the back burner. We're not first anymore when we have kids, and we understand that. But we do have to know that proper nutrition, and it's not difficult, and it's temporary, that we just give ourselves some time to heal. It's tremendous. It's tenfold the benefits if we take care of ourselves and step back. And if we just budget for that allotted time, to take time for ourselves, to organize maybe a massage, or to buy some products that our doulas or midwives or our husbands or daddies can help us put on. I mean, every mom should have an abdominal wrap. Every mom. If you have to buy something, get a wrap. But make sure it's a little bit longer. Maybe encompasses your hips. You can even just wear it at night, 12 hours a day.
Right.
You don't want to cut off circulation, but that stabilizes your core, and that helps your body and helps heal everything. If you have to buy one thing.
I think that's a great bit of advice, and from personal experience of my family, I will tell you that they make a tremendous difference. I know my wife would vouch and my sister-in-law would vouch for them 100%. So it's a great recommendation. You talk about the plan and calling it the mommy plan. I think it is amazing. I think that women go through every detail, and even families, I'll include the dads, they go through every detail of pregnancy and what lifestyle transitions to make to have the greatest impact on the healthiest child. And we go through having a birth plan and all the details to having the baby.
Exactly.
And then the assumption is we'll take the baby to the doctor, but there's not a whole lot of other... It's like there's a tremendous drop-off of thought process and care. So I love that you bring light to this conversation.
That's how the title. That's how I discovered the title was we have a birth plan, we have a baby plan, what we're gonna do, but we have no mommy plan.
No,
Where's
we
the
don't.
mommy plan?
We didn't. Now we do. We do now. So thank you so much for creating it. Thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to connecting again in the future. On behalf of the National Center for Wellness, I hope everyone gets well soon.